Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Have you ever found yourself, nodding along to tech buzzwords like AI, but then maybe secretly wondering, yeah, okay, but what does it really mean for my business? And more importantly, what's the actual return on investment? We've all been there, I think. So today we're doing a deep dive into agentic AI, what it is, how it's different from maybe what you already know, and crucially, how to really calculate its value, get beyond the hype. We've got this really comprehensive report. It's called Agentic AI ROI Calculation, and some detailed excerpts too, and we're going to try and bring you the clearest, most practical insights from it. Our mission today really is to cut through all that complexity and give you a strategic framework you can actually use for evaluating, measuring, and, well, maximizing the ROI of any agentic AI initiatives you might be considering. Think of this as your shortcut, maybe, to understanding the financial and strategic implications.
Yeah, and what's fascinating looking at the research is that agentic AI really represents a fundamental paradigm shift. It's a big deal. It's not just, automating tasks faster. That's part of it, sure. But it's more about enabling proactive, goal-driven autonomy over entire business processes, which means, exactly as you said, how we calculate ROI needs to evolve too. We have to move beyond those traditional, maybe more short-term metrics. They just don't capture the full picture here.
And here's where it gets particularly interesting, I think, especially if you're looking at long-term strategy, because the report talks about something called a J-curve for value realization, which means basically your initial investments might look pretty modest, maybe even negative at first. But the compounding value over time, that's where the real magic happens, where you see the substantial return. So definitely stick with us because we're going to break down every layer of this, from the deep cost to the profound, sometimes kind of hidden returns. Okay, so before we even start talking dollars and cents, we absolutely have to get crystal clear on what agentic AI actually is. The report really hammers this point home. This isn't just some rebrand of AI we already know. It's a distinct and, frankly, much more powerful paradigm. And understanding this difference, well, it's foundational. It helps align your investment with realistic expectations and hopefully avoid project failure down the line.
It's exactly. At its very core, agentic AI is an artificial intelligence system that's capable of accomplishing complex goals, and critically, with limited human supervision. It's not usually just one piece of software either. It's typically composed of one or more AI agents. You can think of these agents as specialized software systems. They perceive their environment, they reason, they plan, and then they actually take actions to achieve some predefined objective. The absolute key differentiator here is agency. That's the capacity to act independently and purposefully to solve problems, often in real time. Now, this is quite different from what you might be used to with, say, earlier forms of AI. Previous iterations, they often needed very explicit step-by-step human prompting for pretty much every action. Agentic AI, though, it operates on intent. You give it a high-level goal, something quite broad sometimes, and it then autonomously breaks that goal down into subtasks. It makes its own decisions about how to proceed, and then it executes the necessary actions to actually fulfill that overall objective. It's also vital to clarify how it does this. Agentic AI leverages generative AI, or Gen AI, and large language models, LLMs, basically as its brain. But while a generative model like, say, ChatGPT is great at creating content, text, images, code, whatever, an agentic system uses that content generation capability. It uses it to interact with external tools, APIs, databases, essentially to complete an entire workflow. So the source material gives this really powerful example. An agentic AI system could not only tell you the best time to travel based on your calendar, but it could also then proceed to autonomously book the flight and the hotel for you without further prompting. That ability to take proactive, sequential action in the real world, that's a massive differentiator. It moves way beyond just generating text to actually doing things. And the research points to 5 defining characteristics that really enable this leap in capability. First, autonomy, performing tasks, making decisions without constant human input. That's huge. Second, goal orientation. It understands a high-level objective and maintains focus throughout what might be a very complex multi-step process. Third, reasoning and planning. It can decompose these complex goals into actionable steps and intelligently select the best way forward. Fourth, adaptability. This is crucial in business. It dynamically adjusts plans and actions if conditions change. And finally, number 5 is proactive action. The system takes the initiative. It executes its plan. This transforms AI from just being a reactive tool, responding to inputs, into a proactive virtual collaborator. So in essence, these 5 things mean agentic AI isn't just about doing tasks faster. It's about systems that can anticipate, plan, and even self-correct. And that fundamentally shifts the cost structure, doesn't it? From reactive fixes to proactive value creation.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does this agentic AI stack up against the AI we might already know, like, say, generative AI or maybe robotic process automation, RPA? The report actually has a fantastic breakdown on this. It really clarifies where agentic AI fits in and, importantly, why it's not just, more of the same thing. Let's do a quick compare and contrast. First, generative AI, GenAI, powered by those LLMs we mentioned. It's really a foundational precursor. Its core strength is content creation, generating text, images, code, always in response to a very specific, direct prompt from a human. It's essentially a request response model. You ask it to generate something, and its role in a process kind of ends there, right? It reacts by giving you information or content. It doesn't then go and do something with it. Then you've got robotic process automation, RPA. That's an earlier wave of automation. It's focused on structured, repetitive, very rule-based tasks. Think of RPA bots mimicking human interactions, clicking buttons, copying data, pasting it into forms. It can be super efficient if your environment is perfectly stable and the rules never ever change. But here's the big catch. RPA is inherently rigid, brittle almost. If a user interface changes slightly or a business rule gets updated, the RPA script often just breaks, which leads to pretty high long-term maintenance costs. And crucially, RPA just follows a script. It cannot reason, it cannot learn from experience, it can't handle exceptions or anything outside its very specific programming.
Right. And what's truly illuminating, I think, is seeing how agentic AI represents both a convergence of these ideas, but also a significant evolution. It leverages the reasoning and, importantly, the natural language understanding of generative AI, that's its brain, to comprehend really complex goals and formulate sophisticated plans. But then, crucially, it acts on those plans. And it does so with a level of autonomy that just far exceeds what RPA can do. It's actually designed to interact with lots of different tools and systems to execute complex, often end-to-end processes. Let me give you a concrete example to make that clearer. Where RPA might automate a single discrete task, like, say, copy data from cell A1 to field B2. An agentic AI system automates an entire workflow. Imagine this. It could monitor incoming invoices, validate them against purchase orders in the ERP system, maybe route any discrepancies it finds for human approval, and then schedule the payment once it gets confirmation. That's a fundamentally different scope of operation, and its ability to adapt to changing conditions, to learn from feedback. That makes it uniquely suited for those dynamic, often unstructured environments where RPA just, well, falls short. The research provides a really helpful comparison table, actually. For RPA, core principle is rule-based execution. Key capability: mimicking human actions for repetitive tasks. Ideal use case: data entry. Learning ability: none. Adaptability: low. Typical ROI metric: labor cost reduction. Simple enough. For generative AI, core principle is content generation. Key capability: creating new content, text, images. Ideal use case: drafting emails, writing reports. It learns from its training data, sure, but it doesn't really self-improve once deployed. ROI. Mostly about time saved on content creation. But then, agentic AI core principle is goal-driven autonomy, key capability, planning, reasoning, and acting to achieve objectives, ideal use cases, end-to-end process automation, complex customer support, adaptive supply chain management, learning ability, yes, from experience, adapting dynamically. And its ROI is much broader: process cycle time reduction, operational cost savings, even top-line revenue growth. So it's really clear. Agentic AI isn't just doing what Gen AI or RPA does faster or better. It's doing something fundamentally different. It's like the orchestrator, bringing those other capabilities together for a much higher order of automation.
That distinction makes sense. Now, this next point might sound a bit academic at first, but the report really emphasizes it, and it directly impacts your potential ROI. It's the difference between a single AI agent and a full agentic AI system. And missing this distinction, apparently, could lead you to fundamentally misalign your capital investment with the value you expect to get back.
Absolutely, that's a crucial point. An AI agent, as the report defines it, is typically a single entity. It's designed for a narrow, well-defined, task-specific purpose. Think of it like a specialist tool in a toolbox. Examples might be a customer support chatbot that only handles frequently asked questions, or maybe a basic scheduling assistant for booking meetings or an email filter. These agents can be highly efficient for modular, repeatable operations, but their scope is limited. So the ROI calculation for a single agent is often pretty straightforward. You're looking at cost savings on a specific isolated task. It's about tactical efficiency gains. An agentic AI system, on the other hand, represents that paradigm shift we were talking about. It's characterized by multi-agent collaboration, dynamic task decomposition, and orchestrated autonomy. These systems are composed of multiple specialized agents that actually communicate with each other, coordinate their actions, and dynamically allocate subtasks among themselves to achieve a much broader, more complex business objective. This architectural difference underpins really profound differences in scalability, adaptability, and the overall scope of what you can apply it to. To give you an example drawn from the report, imagine one agent whose job is just to monitor regulatory changes in real time. Then another agent analyzes the precise impact of those changes on your specific business operations. And then maybe a third agent drafts and even executes a compliance plan based on that analysis. All working together, orchestrated towards a larger strategic goal like maintaining compliance. This is about transforming entire core business processes, things like research automation or truly adaptive supply chain management. The report also briefly mentions different ways these systems can be built. Some are more hierarchical with a central conductor agent, others more decentralized and collaborative. And that architectural choice has direct implications for how scalable and adaptable your system will be, which of course feeds right back into your long-term ROI. So the critical question you need to ask is, are you investing in just a tactical efficiency gain from a single agent? Or are you aiming for a fundamental transformation of a core business process using a whole system? Because the scope of your investment simple agent versus complex system absolutely dictates the potential return. And as we're about to see, the complexity of the costs involved.
Okay, costs. We all tend to jump straight to the return in ROI, don't we? It's the exciting part. But the report offers this crucial reminder. If your investment calculation is off, your whole ROI picture will be skewed. And with Agentic AI, so the investment is far more complex than just, say, buying a new software license. The research really emphasizes using total cost of ownership, or TCO. And this covers direct costs, indirect costs, and organizational costs. And these are often significantly underestimated, which can lead to budget overruns down the road. It really shifts the role of financial leadership, doesn't it? From just cost-cutting to more like strategic investment management within this new TCO framework.
That's exactly right. The initial capital outlay, the direct financial part, is shaped heavily by a primary strategic choice. Are you going to build a custom solution in-house or buy a pre-existing platform or service? The buy option generally offers a faster time to value and potentially a lower TCO, the report suggests, by at least 20% in some cases, especially for more standard business processes like sales or customer service. So that path might be suitable if you're looking to quickly deploy proven solutions. However, the build approach, while definitely more resource-intensive, is often necessary if you're creating something unique. Proprietary systems that tackle your core business logic. Things that could provide a real, durable competitive advantage. Now, for organizations choosing to build, the development and implementation costs can be substantial. You're looking at estimates ranging from, say, $25,000 to $50,000 for a relatively simple chatbot or agent, but easily escalating to well over $250,000 for a sophisticated multi-agent system. And these figures also have to include the cost of assembling a specialized team, AI engineers, data scientists, project managers, and so on. That team cost alone can run from maybe $20,000 a month for a small minimum viable product, or MVP team, up to well over $70,000 a month for a full-scale production team. And it's worth noting these labor costs are heavily influenced by geography. Talent in certain regions, like Eastern Europe or Latin America, might reduce those expenses by potentially up to 60% compared to, say, the U.S. market. But whether you build or buy, you're going to face ongoing licensing and consumption costs. And the report characterizes the pricing models here as often complex and opaque, which is definitely something to watch out for. Broadly, these tend to fall into three categories. First, you have per-user subscriptions, a flat recurring fee per user. Think Microsoft 365 Copilot's $30 per user per month model. Offers budget predictability, maybe. Then there's usage-based consumption. This seems to be the dominant model for the foundational model APIs, like those from OpenAI or Anthropic. Here, costs are calculated per token, basically a unit of text. And you often have different rates for input tokens versus output tokens and for different model tiers. Like Claude 4 Opus is significantly more expensive per token than Sonnet. Now, while this pay-as-you-go approach lets you start small, the report warns that costs can scale exponentially and, importantly, unpredictably with complex multi-step agentic workflows. This unpredictability presents a major challenge for CFOs. It necessitates a shift towards more dynamic financial management and cost monitoring. And finally, there are hybrid models, which might combine a subscription fee with some kind of usage quota. The key takeaway is that this shift towards consumption-based licensing really requires careful financial planning and ongoing optimization.
Wow, so it's definitely not just the sticker price, is it? It's that ongoing meter, the consumption cost, that could really surprise you if you're not meticulously prepared for it. That's a huge shift from how we traditionally budget for software. And it gets even deeper, apparently. The report shines a light on these so-called hidden costs. These are the indirect and operational expenditures that, it warns, can actually become the largest and most underestimated part of your total cost of ownership. These are basically the recurring costs needed just to keep the agentic system running effectively, securely, and intelligently day to day.
That's exactly right. First up, compute and infrastructure costs. These can be substantial because agentic AI is computationally very intensive. It requires access to high-performance computing resources, often GPUs, just for running the model's inference. And renting those can be expensive, maybe $8 to $12 an hour for something like an NVIDIA H100. Furthermore, agents that need memory and context, especially those using retrieval augmented generation, or BAC.
Brag, right. That's like giving the AI a super fast library to check facts or pull in relevant info.
Exactly. It gives them access to specific, timely information. But to do that, they need specialized databases like vector databases. And using those adds recurring costs for storage, querying, and throughput. So just the monthly cloud infrastructure costs alone can range from maybe $500 to over $3,000, and they scale significantly with usage. Second, data management. This is absolutely critical. High-quality data is the lifeblood, the fuel for any AI system. But the process of acquiring it, cleansing it, labeling it, preparing it, it's a massive undertaking. The report states it often consumes up to 80% of an AI project's total time and resources.
Yeah.
80%. So organizations absolutely must invest in robust data pipelines, storage, and governance to ensure the data feeding their agents is consistently accurate and reliable. That's a huge ongoing effort and cost. Third, monitoring and observability. These are completely non-negotiable if you want trust, reliability, and auditability. Enterprises have to implement specialized tools to monitor their agentic systems. Services like Langsmith, for example, log every single token, every API call, every decision an agent makes. This kind of granular logging is essential for debugging, tracking performance, ensuring compliance, but it incurs significant ongoing costs for data storage and compute. Again, maybe $200 to over $1,000 per month just for monitoring. Fourth, security and compliance. These become major cost centers, mainly because agents often need access to sensitive enterprise data to do their jobs. So this includes implementing technical guardrails to prevent things like hallucinations or unsafe outputs. It means enforcing strict role-based access controls, masking sensitive data appropriately, and ensuring the system's actions are fully auditable and compliant with regulations like GDPR or HIPAA. These measures alone can easily add $500 to $2,000 per month in operational costs. And finally, there's ongoing maintenance and optimization. An agentic system is absolutely not a set-it-and-forget-it technology. That's a myth. It requires continuous maintenance, things like prompt engineering to refine how the agent behaves, periodic fine-tuning of the underlying models to adapt to new data or changing requirements, and A/B testing different model versions or prompts to optimize performance. These are all recurring operational expenses that can cost thousands of dollars per month. And this, as you said, is where many organizations get tripped up. They focus only on the initial technology acquisition costs. They don't budget adequately for these ongoing operational realities. But these costs are directly linked to ensuring the system actually delivers on its promise. Its autonomy and intelligence need to be reliable.
Okay, so we've peeled back the layers on the tech costs, the operational costs. Makes sense. But the report flags something potentially even more foundational and often the most underestimated cost category. It's the investment needed within the organization itself, in its people and processes. Because, as the report puts it, an algorithm, no matter how perfect, won't succeed if your people aren't ready for it.
Absolutely. The success, the real ROI of agentic AI is critically dependent on the human element and organizational preparedness. The first major area here is talent acquisition and training. We all know the demand for AI expertise, researchers, ML engineers, data scientists. It far outstrips the current supply. This makes recruiting and retaining these skilled individuals a significant and very expensive part of any AI initiative. But equally important, and often underestimated, is the investment needed to upskill your existing workforce. Employees need training not just on, how to click buttons on a new tool. They need training on entirely new ways of working, new ways of collaborating with these autonomous systems. That's a big shift. Second, change management. This is paramount. Organizational inertia and, frankly, cultural apprehension are major barriers to AI adoption. Employees might naturally resist the technology, maybe due to fear of job displacement or just a lack of familiarity and trust. Overcoming this requires a dedicated, proactive change management effort. That means clear, consistent communication from leadership about the why. It means creating internal AI evangelists or champions who can help build enthusiasm and understanding. And it means aligning incentives to actually encourage adoption, not penalize experimentation. This is a substantial, non-trivial investment in the human side of the transformation. You can't skimp on this. Third, there's the cost of governance overhead. To prevent just a chaotic sprawl of disconnected micro-initiatives and to manage the very real systemic risks introduced by autonomous agents making decisions. Organizations absolutely must invest in some kind of centralized governance structure. Often, this takes the form of what's called an AI Center of Excellence, or COE. Think of it as the air traffic control for all your AI projects. This COE is responsible for setting ethical guidelines, ensuring legal and regulatory compliance, aligning AI projects with broader business strategy, and preventing redundant efforts, what the report calls AI sprawl. Establishing and staffing such a function represents a significant ongoing organizational cost, but it's essential for managing risk and ensuring strategic alignment. The report includes a helpful summary table that visualizes where all this investment is going. It categorizes these costs direct, indirect, organizational, and provides some estimated ranges for both build versus buy scenarios. It really helps ensure you're accounting for all these crucial elements. The tech, yes, but also the talent, the operations, and the organizational readiness.
Right. So what's the practical takeaway here for anyone listening? It really means the ROI is far more complex than just buying a new software license. Much more. It's about making a holistic investment across your technology, your operations, and arguably your most valuable asset, your people and their willingness and ability to adapt to these new ways of working.
Okay, all right, now for the part of everyone gets excited about the return side of the ROI equation. And the report makes a compelling case that agentic AI goes way beyond just simple labor arbitrage, replacing human tasks. It's about achieving profound efficiency gains, yes, but also amplifying human capacity and even creating entirely new revenue streams. It's presented as a shift from a purely defensive, cost-cutting posture to potentially an offensive, growth-oriented one.
Yeah.
Exactly. The primary value proposition of agentic AI, certainly in terms of efficiency, is its remarkable ability to automate entire end-to-end business processes, not just those discrete, repetitive tasks we talked about with RPA. This is where it truly differentiates itself and delivers substantial value. By autonomously coordinating multiple complex steps, interacting with different IT systems, handling exceptions along the way, agentic systems can dramatically reduce the time and therefore the cost associated with these intricate workflows. And this isn't just theoretical. It's demonstrated by significant quantifiable improvements in what's called process cycle time. Because these agents can eliminate many of those human-in-the-loop delays and often execute multiple steps in parallel, they fundamentally accelerate how quickly work gets done. The report provides some really concrete benchmarks here. For instance, Siemens used AI to optimize its production planning and scheduling, and that resulted in a reported 15% reduction in overall production time.
15%, that's significant in manufacturing.
Yeah, absolutely. And in healthcare, Mass General Hospital deployed an AI agent specifically to automate clinical note-taking. The result? A remarkable 60% reduction in the time physicians had to spend on documentation. Think about freeing up that much doctor time.
Huge impact on patient care potential there.
And these improvements in speed and efficiency translate directly into hard cost savings, real dollars. A McKinsey study cited in the report found that companies actively adopting agentic AI have seen operational cost reductions of up to 30%. 30%. And specific examples really validate this potential. General Mills, for instance, saved over $20 million in transportation costs just by using AI to optimize their daily shipments. What's truly illuminating, as this report points out, is that these aren't just marginal incremental gains. They represent substantial bottom-line impact achieved by intelligently orchestrating complex operations at scale. It's really about optimizing the entire business engine, not just tweaking a single gear.
Okay, efficiency and cost savings, check. But another cornerstone of the agentic AI value proposition, according to the report, is this idea of liberating human capital. So by offloading those high-volume, maybe cognitively repetitive or just administratively burdensome tasks, agentic systems allow your employees, your people, to redirect their focus towards higher value activities like strategic planning, innovation, creative problem solving, maybe complex customer relationship management, things where human judgment, empathy, and creativity are truly irreplaceable. The message seems to be, this is not about replacing employees wholesale, but about amplifying their productivity and their overall impact. And this productivity gain crucially, can be quantified. You can measure the amount of time saved. Methodologies like Forrester's Total Economic Impact or TEI framework provide a structured way to assess this value. A TEI study mentioned in the report, looking at Glean's Work AI platform, found that it saved users up to 110 hours per user per year. That's almost 3 work weeks. And other case studies report similar large-scale time savings. EchoStar projected saving 35,000 work hours annually through its AI applications. Two Press estimated its employees save more than an hour per day. That adds up incredibly fast across an organization. And you can translate these saved hours into a direct financial metric, basically using an opportunity value formula. You multiply the hours saved by the effective hourly wage rate of the employees whose time is being freed up. The report gives an example. For an organization of just 1,000 employees, offloading only 1 to 2 hours of lower value work per day per employee, that could translate into something like $10 million to $20 million in potential value annually. So the bottom line here is pretty powerful, isn't it? You're literally reclaiming potentially millions of dollars in value by allowing your people to focus on what they do best instead of getting bogged down in routine administrative tasks. That's a strong justification for the investment right there.
Definitely. But agentic AI isn't just about saving costs or freeing up time. It's also positioned as a potent engine for top-line growth. It enables organizations both to amplify their existing revenue streams and, perhaps more excitingly, to create entirely new ones. This capability really positions the technology as a strategic driver of business expansion, moving it well beyond just operational efficiency. So, how does it amplify existing revenues? Primarily by significantly enhancing sales and marketing effectiveness. For example, imagine an agent embedded in your e-commerce platform. It can proactively analyze the specific user's behavior, their purchase history, maybe even their current context, to surface highly relevant, personalized upselling or cross-selling offers in real time. This level of dynamic personalization can really drive higher conversion rates. The report cites H&M seeing a 25% increase in conversions during interactions with their chatbot.
25% is huge in e-commerce conversions.
It is. And Iba Cosmetics reported a staggering 260% increase in online sales after implementing AI automation in their processes. The report suggests that, on average, businesses implementing agent-based AI are seeing something like a 15% revenue increase within the first year. But perhaps even more transformational is the potential for agentic AI to help create entirely new revenue streams. Think about industrial companies, for instance. They could embed agents directly into their connected equipment out in the field to monitor usage and performance. This data then enables completely new business models, maybe pay-per-use billing or performance-based contracts, or even automated feature unlocks delivered directly from the equipment itself based on usage patterns. Similarly, think about service organizations, law firms, tax advisors, consultants. They could encapsulate their valuable proprietary internal expertise into AI agents. These agents could then be offered as scalable software as a service, or SaaS, tools to a much broader market of clients who lack that specific in-house expertise. You're effectively productizing the firm's intellectual capital at scale. And furthermore, just by automating many of the administrative and support tasks that often burden sales teams, agentic AI frees up significant time for those high-value, client-facing activities. One analysis estimated that freeing up just 6 hours of a typical business development officer's week could lead to a 25% increase in the time they spend actually in client meetings, which potentially could result in a corresponding 25% increase in new clients closed annually. The report cites a specific regional bank example where this kind of time liberation translated to an estimated additional $34 million in annual revenue across just 100 officers.
34 million. Wow.
Right. So this really highlights how agentic AI allows organizations to scale their revenue-generating capacity, potentially without a proportional increase in headcount. It becomes a strategic driver of expansion, not just optimization.
Okay, so we hit the hard numbers. The direct cost savings, the amplified productivity, even the new revenue streams. Pretty compelling stuff. But the report makes a really strong argument that the most profound and durable value of agentic AI often lies in its intangible benefits. Now, these are admittedly harder to quantify with traditional metrics, but they're positioned as critical drivers of long-term competitive advantage. And it emphasizes that these so-called soft benefits are actually really important leading indicators of future financial performance. For example, improved decision quality eventually leads to better market positioning. Enhanced customer loyalty directly translates into higher customer lifetime value and more predictable future cash flows. So they're soft, but they matter financially down the line.
Exactly. And one major area here is how agentic AI fundamentally transforms organizational decision-making. Traditional business intelligence often just provides historical data for humans to analyze. Agentic AI goes much further. It can autonomously collect, synthesize, and analyze vast amounts of real-time data, not just to generate insights, but often to recommend or even execute actions based on those insights. This capability can dramatically accelerate the entire decision-making cycle, allowing organizations to respond to market opportunities and threats with, frankly, unprecedented speed. Now, the value of this acceleration can sometimes be measured indirectly through metrics like time to decision or maybe insight latency. One case study mentioned reported a 50% acceleration in decision-making simply by cutting down the analytics time involved. But often the primary benefit comes from redirecting executive and employee attention. By automating many of the routine operational decisions that consume a huge chunk of a manager's time, things like minor supplier contract adjustments or standard pricing approvals, Agentic AI effectively frees up cognitive bandwidth for that higher-level strategic work. One analysis estimated that over 40% of operational hours spent on decisions could potentially be redirected to more strategic initiatives through this kind of automation. So this shift from getting bogged down in tactical execution to focusing on strategic direction is a really powerful, albeit maybe indirect, driver of long-term value. It's really about creating a truly intelligent, learning organization. It's not just about making decisions faster. It's about enabling your best human minds to focus on the complex problems that only they can solve, while the more routine tactical decisions are handled efficiently and autonomously.
That makes a lot of sense. Now let's talk about the customer experience. Think about your own experiences as a customer, right? We all crave personalization, responsiveness, feeling like a company actually understands us. The report says Agentic AI makes this kind of hyper-personalization possible at a scale that was just previously unimaginable. Agents can analyze an entire customer history, everything from past purchases and service interactions to recent browsing behavior report, to tailor every single touchpoint, from marketing communications they receive to the support resolutions they get. And this creates a much more seamless, context-aware experience, which, the theory goes, fosters deeper customer relationships and drives significant improvements in satisfaction and, crucially, loyalty.
Yes, and the link between these improvements in customer experience and the actual financial returns can be quite clearly established using well-understood frameworks, like the service profit chain. This model posits a direct causal relationship. Better service quality leads to higher customer satisfaction, which leads to increased customer loyalty, and that ultimately drives revenue growth and profitability. It's a proven chain reaction. And the impact of AI on these leading indicators is definitely measurable. For instance, the report mentions organizations using agent-based AI have reported impressive gains, like a 25% improvement in Net Promoter Scores, or NPS, and a 10% increase in customer satisfaction, or CSAT, scores. And these improvements in customer loyalty can then be translated into a more direct financial metric, customer lifetime value, or CLV. Methodologies for predicting and actually enhancing CLV using AI are becoming increasingly sophisticated. They involve using machine learning models to maybe identify high-value customer segments or predict which customers are at risk of churning, and then proactively triggering personalized retention efforts tailored to that individual customer. So by improving retention rates, by identifying smart opportunities for upselling or cross-selling based on deep understanding, AI directly increases the total value a customer brings to your business over their entire relationship. Therefore, a robust ROI model absolutely can and probably should incorporate the projected increase in CLV, calculated from these AI-driven improvements in retention and satisfaction metrics, as a key long-term financial benefit.
Right. So what's the practical takeaway here for your business? It means happier customers who theoretically stay with you longer and hopefully spend more over that time. It's a pretty direct line from delivering a better, more personalized experience to achieving a healthier bottom line, even if it's not quite as simple as a direct cost-saving calculation.
And then we get to what are perhaps the most strategic and long-term benefits of Agentic AI. Its contributions to an organization's overall competitive posture. Now, these intangible assets, things like agility and innovation capacity, they're definitely the most difficult to measure with traditional financial formulas, but arguably, they are the most valuable in the long run. Agentic systems are described as bringing an unprecedented level of agility and resilience to business operations. Because they can continuously ingest data, learn, and adjust process flows on the fly, they enable organizations to respond to market disruptions, think supply chain delays, sudden demand surges, unexpected regulatory changes in near real time, often without any human intervention needed. This ability to autonomously reroute operations, maybe reallocate resources, and mitigate anomalies before they cascade into major failures. It makes the entire enterprise fundamentally more resilient and robust in the face of uncertainty. Next, there's innovation acceleration. This is a really interesting one. By automating a wide range of knowledge work, not just routine tasks, agentic AI potentially liberates the most valuable resource in any organization: human ingenuity and creativity. This freed up intellectual capacity can then be redirected towards things like research and development, long-term strategic planning, and other creative endeavors. The potential outcome: shortening innovation cycles, accelerating the time to market for new products and services, and basically out-innovating the competition. And finally, while direct measurement is challenging, the report points out that the proprietary AI models you develop, the optimized workflows you create, the unique datasets you curate through an agentic AI initiative, these actually constitute valuable new intellectual property. And there are advanced corporate finance methodologies, things like the relief from royalty method or the multi-period excess earnings method, that actually exist for valuing such intangible assets. Essentially, they try to assign a financial value to the unique competitive capabilities created by a successful agentic AI implementation, even if they don't show up directly on the balance sheet initially.
Okay, so valuing intangibles like agility and innovation, that sounds tricky. How do you actually track progress on these soft benefits? This is where the rubber meets the road, right? And the report gives us a specific tool for this, something called the Strategic Value Scorecard.
Yeah, exactly. The Strategic Value Scorecard is presented as a structured management tool. Its purpose is to systematically track these crucial but often hard to quantify benefits, acting as a necessary complement to the traditional financial metrics. It provides a structured way to evaluate and monitor progress on these more intangible strategic goals. For instance, for decision quality and velocity, you might track metrics like time to decision or maybe reduction in decision errors attributed to better data. For customer loyalty and value, you'd obviously look at customer lifetime value, net promoter score, maybe churn rate reduction. For innovation capacity, perhaps you track R&D cycle time or number of new product features launched. And for organizational agility, maybe you measure the time to respond effectively to a simulated market disruption. This scorecard essentially allows you to transform those vague aspirations like be more innovative or be more agile into manageable, reportable objectives. It's really how you ensure that these critical strategic improvements are being actively monitored and recognized as important leading indicators for future financial success. It forces, or maybe encourages, critical thinking about where exactly you're building long-term sustainable value.
Okay, this is great. We've talked about the costs, direct, indirect, organizational. We've talked about the returns efficiency, productivity, revenue, and these important intangibles. So how do we actually put all these pieces together? How do we combine the detailed costs and these multifaceted returns into a credible, robust ROI calculation? The report argues pretty strongly that we need something far more sophisticated than just the standard, simple ROI formula we all learned.
Yeah, the standard formula for return on investment, ROI, company, net benefit cost of investment. Cost of investment, 100% is universally understood. That's its strength. It provides a straightforward percentage return, making it seem like an easy way to compare different investment opportunities. However, when you apply that formula in isolation to an emergent and truly transformative technology like agentic AI, it really starts to show significant limitations. Its primary weaknesses, as highlighted in the report, include: first, difficulty with intangibles. We just discussed this. The formula really struggles to incorporate those strategic, non-financial benefits like improved decision quality or enhanced brand reputation, which are often the most significant long-term value drivers of AI. Second, it inherently has a short-term bias. It doesn't naturally account for the time value of money, nor does it easily handle the long time horizons often required for AI projects to mature and deliver their full benefits. This can lead to a really myopic focus on immediate cost savings, causing organizations to undervalue or, worse, prematurely terminate strategically vital long-term initiatives just because the short-term ROI doesn't look great. And third, there's the challenge of attribution complexity. In a complex business environment, it's exceedingly difficult to perfectly isolate the net benefit generated solely by the AI system from all the other confounding business factors: market shifts, marketing campaigns, pricing changes, you name it. This makes calculating that net benefit figure a real challenge, and often a contentious estimate. It really raises an important question, doesn't it? If your measurement tool itself can't capture the full spectrum of value being created, are you outwardly setting yourself up to undervalue or maybe even prematurely abandon a potentially game-changing investment?
Right. That's a sobering thought. So, to overcome those limitations, the report proposes a more sophisticated approach, a hybrid financial model. And this is where it gets particularly interesting, I think, for anyone listening who's actually trying to build a bulletproof business case for an agentic AI investment.
Indeed. This hybrid model integrates several components for a more holistic view. The first key component is net present value, NPV. Most finance professionals will be familiar with this. NPV explicitly accounts for the time value of money by discounting all future cash flows, both the costs and the benefits over the project's life, back to their present-day value using an appropriate discount rate, like the company's cost of capital. This is absolutely critical for agentic AI projects, where you often have significant costs incurred up front, but the most substantial benefits might not be fully realized for several years out. A positive NPV indicates that the project is expected to generate value over its lifetime, above and beyond the cost of capital invested. It's a much better measure for long-term projects than simple ROI. Next, the model incorporates something called confidence-adjusted savings. This is really insightful. A key feature of agentic AI is its ability to automate decisions, right? But these decisions are probabilistic. They're not always 100% accurate, and errors have real costs associated with them. So a robust ROI model has to account for the cost of these potential errors. Now, without getting bogged down in the specific formula provided in the report, the genius of this approach is its realism. It acknowledges AI isn't perfect. It essentially says, okay, we expect the AI to be right, say, 95% of the time on high confidence predictions. For those, we capture the full savings. But for the other 5%, or for predictions below a certain confidence threshold, we assume they need manual review, or we factor in the cost of fixing a potential AI mistake. So it calculates a more realistic, confidence-adjusted profit by subtracting the expected cost of AI errors and the cost of necessary human oversight for those less confident decisions. This really helps build trust in your ROI numbers because you're proactively accounting for the real-world messiness and imperfection of AI deployment. And finally, the hybrid model strongly recommends considering the risk of non-investment, RONI. This concept tries to quantify the opportunity cost of inaction. What's the potential value lost or the risk incurred by not investing in agentic AI while your competitors are potentially moving ahead? It accounts for things like projected losses in operational efficiency compared to peers, potential erosion of market share if competitors gain an AI advantage, or reduced customer satisfaction if your experience lags behind. The report gives an example. For a mid-sized enterprise, just ongoing operational inefficiencies, if not addressed by AI, could potentially result in annual losses exceeding $500,000 compared to optimized competitors. So presenting ROI alongside the projected ROI fundamentally reframes the decision. It shifts the question from can we afford to do this to perhaps can we really afford not to do this in the long run? And just to reiterate, because it's so important, even with this sophisticated hybrid financial model, a purely financial assessment is still incomplete. The strategic value scorecard, which traps those crucial intangible benefits, must be formally integrated into the overall ROI assessment. It acts as a necessary qualitative complement to the quantitative financial analysis. This tool provides the board, the executive team, with that structured, rigorous method for tracking the intangible benefits, agility, innovation, customer loyalty that really underpin long-term sustainable success. By assigning key performance indicators, or KPIs, and specific measurement methods to concepts like decision quality or innovation capacity, it transforms that soft ROI from just a vague aspiration into a manageable and reportable set of strategic objectives. This scorecard should ideally be reviewed regularly, maybe quarterly or semi-annually, not just to track progress, but also to serve as a source of crucial leading indicators for future financial returns.
That makes sense. You need both the hard numbers and the strategic context. Now, to ground all of this in real-world application, the report also brings in insights from some leading analyst firms like Forrester and Gartner. How do their frameworks fit in?
Right. Benchmarking against industry standards and leveraging established frameworks is really valuable. Forrester's Total Economic Impact, or TEI, methodology provides a very comprehensive framework. It goes beyond simple ROI to analyze 4 key components: the benefits, both tangible and intangible; the costs, full TCO, something they call flexibility, which represents future potential value or options created by the investment; and importantly, the risks involved. Real-world TEI studies conducted on specific agentic platforms provide powerful benchmarks. For instance, a study cited on Glean's platform found a 3-year ROI of 141%. Another on the Writer platform found a remarkable 333% ROI over 3 years, with a payback period of less than 6 months.
Wow, those are impressive numbers.
They are. And analyzing these kinds of published studies can really help organizations structure their own internal business cases and set realistic targets based on what others are achieving. Gartner's value framework, meanwhile, advocates for a critical shift in perspective. They encourage moving away from purely financial metrics towards a stronger focus on business-centric outcomes. They recommend benchmarking performance both internally against baselines and externally against peers, and measuring success against use case-specific metrics that matter to the business. Critically, Gartner introduces concepts like return on employee, ROE, which aims to capture improvements in workforce productivity, engagement, and overall employee experience resulting from AI. And also return on future, ROF, which assesses an investment's contribution to long-term strategic goals, capability building, and innovation potential. Incorporating concepts like ROE and ROF into your assessment ensures that those crucial capability building and future-proofing aspects of an agentic AI investment are formally recognized and valued, not just the immediate financial return.
Got it. And the report wraps this section up with a really fantastic summary table of real-world ROI case studies across different industries. We touched on some earlier, but maybe let's highlight a few again to really drive this home. It's remarkable how these diverse examples seem to echo the core ROI principles we've been discussing. It feels like concrete proof that this isn't just theory, it's being realized in practice right now. So in finance, we saw American Express using an AI-powered chatbot for customer service, achieving a 25% reduction in some service costs alongside a 10% increase in customer satisfaction. Bank of America's Erica virtual AI assistant handled over 1 billion client interactions by 2023, significantly decreasing call center volume. And that regional bank example estimated a 25% increase in new clients closed annually, translating to roughly $34 million in additional revenue just from freeing up their officers' time with AI agents. In healthcare, a national health insurer used Agentic AI to automate parts of claims processing, projecting potential annual savings of $188 million through a 20% cost reduction per claim. And Mass General Hospital achieved that incredible 60% reduction in physician time spent on clinical documentation using an AI agent for note-taking. For manufacturing and logistics, Siemens used AI automation for production planning, leading to that 15% reduction in production time and also a 12% decrease in production costs. General Mills saved over $20 million annually in transportation costs by optimizing daily shipments with AI models. And in retail e-commerce, Walmart deployed those store floor robots using AI agents to monitor shelf inventory in real time, resulting in a 35% reduction in costly excess inventory. H&M used an AI-powered chatbot in some interactions, which led to a 25% increase in conversion rates.
Yeah, these case studies really underscore the point, I think. Whether it's optimizing complex planning at Siemens, streamlining claims processing at a huge insurer, or personalizing interactions at H&M, we're seeing these consistent patterns emerge. Significant efficiency gains, yes, but also productivity amplification, enhanced customer experiences, and even new revenue opportunities. It's truly compelling proof that the framework we've discussed isn't just theoretical. It's demonstrably proven in practice across a wide variety of sectors and applications.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you listening? It means you now have a much more robust, multi-layered framework armed with industry benchmarks and real-world examples to build a truly defensible and comprehensive business case for agentic AI, one that moves well beyond the simplistic, potentially misleading ROI calculations of the past. Now, as powerful and promising as agentic AI sounds, the report is also very clear about something else. Achieving a positive ROI is not a foregone conclusion. It's not guaranteed. The implementation journey is apparently filled with significant risks and challenges. And perhaps surprisingly, the report suggests the most substantial risks are often organizational, not purely technological. It really frames this as a fundamental business transformation, not just another IT project rollout.
That's a very important dose of realism. One of the most persistent challenges in actually measuring AI ROI in the real world is the difficulty of attribution. That is, proving conclusively that the business improvements you observe, maybe increased revenue, maybe reduced costs, are a direct result of the AI initiative and not due to other confounding factors happening at the same time. Market shifts, new marketing campaigns, personnel changes, pricing adjustments, the list goes on. AI systems operate within these complex, dynamic business ecosystems, making it genuinely challenging to isolate their specific, unique contribution to the bottom line. And this ambiguity can seriously undermine the credibility of your ROI calculations and potentially weaken stakeholder support over time if they don't clearly see the link. So how do you mitigate this attribution challenge? The report suggests adopting a more rigorous, almost scientific approach to measurement. Step 1. Establish clear baselines. Before you deploy any AI system, you need to painstakingly document your current performance for the specific key performance indicators or KPIs you're targeting. This pre-implementation data provides that essential reference point for comparison later. Step 2. Use control groups and A/B testing wherever feasible. This is often the gold standard. The most effective way to truly isolate AI's impact is to run controlled experiments. For example, roll out an AI copilot to one group of customer service agents, while another group continues with the existing tools and processes. Then compare their performance directly. And step 3, leverage advanced analytics. Use statistical modeling techniques to try and model the impact of AI while controlling for other known variables that might be influencing the outcome. This can help you statistically attribute portions of an observed outcome specifically to the AI initiative. Getting this measurement and attribution piece right is absolutely critical for maintaining credibility and ensuring continued support for the investment, proving it's actually paying off.
Right, rigorous measurement is key. Now, another critical insight the report delivers is about managing expectations, especially regarding the timeline for returns. Stakeholders, maybe understandably, often expect immediate transformative results from exciting new tech like AI, but the reality of AI value realization, the report says, often follows what they call a J-curve. Can you explain that? Yeah, the J-curve concept basically illustrates that during the initial investment period, you might actually yield low or even negative returns. This is because you have significant upfront cost development, data preparation, infrastructure, and crucially, that organizational change management we talked about. The real benefits, especially the strategic ones that drive major value, tend to accrue and compound over time, leading to that upward swing of the J. Now, this dynamic presents significant risks because many substantial AI projects require extended timeframes, maybe years, to demonstrate their full value. And this often clashes directly with shorter-term corporate budget cycles and quarterly reporting pressures. Gartner actually predicts that something like 30% of generative AI projects will be abandoned after the proof of concept stage, often due to factors like unclear business value demonstration early on or just escalating unmanaged costs. And early ROI figures can indeed be misleading. One study mentioned found that initial enterprise AI pilots delivered an average ROI of just 5.9%. That's often well below a company's typical cost of capital or hurdle rate. However, the crucial finding was that the organizations that persevered beyond that initial dip saw sustained growth in operating profit improvements over the subsequent years. So how do you mitigate this risk of premature abandonment due to the J-curve? It really comes down to proactive expectation management. First, you absolutely have to educate stakeholders. Leadership must clearly and repeatedly communicate this J-curve dynamic to the board, to investors, to the entire organization. Frame that initial phase explicitly as a necessary foundational investment, not as a period of underperformance. Second, during those early phases when the hard financial returns might be low or negative, you need to focus on leading indicators. Report progress diligently on the metrics from your strategic value scorecard, things like improvements in process cycle time, rising customer satisfaction scores, or even positive shifts in employee engagement with the new tools. These leading indicators can build confidence and sustain momentum. And third, the report suggests adopting a portfolio approach to your AI investments. Treat it like a venture capital portfolio, maybe. Balance those long-term, potentially higher risk, higher reward strategic transformation projects with some shorter-term, quick win initiatives. These quick wins can deliver more immediate, easily measurable benefits, generate positive buzz, and potentially even help fund the more ambitious, longer-term efforts. So the bottom line here seems to be, you've got to play the long game with agentic AI and have very honest, transparent conversations up front about the likely investment trajectory. It requires patience and real strategic foresight from leadership.
And perhaps the greatest single threat to achieving sustainable ROI from agentic AI, according to the report, is a lack of robust governance. Without a clear centralized strategy and strong oversight, organizations are just incredibly prone to a whole range of value-destroying outcomes. Things like fragmented, disconnected, and redundant initiatives popping up everywhere. A failure to develop the necessary skills across the workforce, but also significant legal, ethical, or compliance risks, potential brand damage from AI missteps, and technical risks like uncontrolled LLM hallucinations or serious data privacy breaches. Any one of these can instantly negate whatever financial gains you might have achieved. So strong governance shouldn't be viewed as just some bureaucratic hurdle to overcome. It should be seen as a critical enabler of safe, scalable, and ultimately profitable AI deployment. Investing in a governance framework, whether it's called an AI Center of Excellence, COE, or something like McKinsey's proposed Agentic AI mesh architecture, is presented as an absolute prerequisite for long-term success. A well-structured governance function actually delivers its own ROI in several ways. First, by ensuring strategic alignment. It makes sure that all AI projects are directly tied to core business objectives and priorities, preventing resources from being wasted on low-value or disconnected initiatives. Second, it's absolutely key for managing systemic risk. It establishes the necessary guardrails, ethical principles, data handling policies, and compliance checks to prevent those potentially catastrophic failures. And third, Good governance is crucial for accelerating scalable adoption. By creating standardized tools, reusable components, clear processes, and best practices, a COE can actually accelerate the safe and efficient scaling of successful pilots across the entire enterprise, maximizing the return on those initial investments. Ultimately, the report comes back to this crucial point. The vast majority of the value derived from AI, some estimates put it as high as 70%, comes not purely from the sophistication of the algorithm itself, but from the corresponding changes in business processes, employee roles, and fundamental ways of working that the technology enables. And this really raises a critical framing question for any leader. Are you simply buying a piece of technology?
Or are you truly investing in a complete organizational transformation? Because if it's the latter, then your budget must allocate significant resources not just to the tech, but to that intensive change management, the necessary process redesign, and establishing robust governance. Because ultimately, the report argues that's where the real sustainable value is unlocked.
Okay, that's a powerful conclusion on the risks and governance. So we've covered what agentic AI is, what it costs, both visible and hidden, how it delivers value, both tangible and intangible, and the journey pitfalls. Now let's zoom out for the final section, the strategic outlook. The report positions agentic AI not just as some incremental technological step, but as truly foundational capability that is likely to reshape entire industries over time. The strategic imperative, it argues, is for organizations to start building towards becoming a more resilient, more adaptive, and fundamentally more intelligent organization by redesigning their operating models around the potential of autonomous action.
Yes, the potential economic impact of agentic AI, looking at the macroeconomic level, is projected to be staggering. McKinsey estimates, for example, that this technology could unlock an additional $2.6 trillion to $4.4 trillion in value annually across the global economy. That's on top of the value already projected from traditional AI and analytics.
Trillions with a T, that's hard to even comprehend.
It is, and other forecasts paint a similar picture, projecting that every dollar invested directly in AI solutions could potentially generate nearly $5 in value across the broader economy. Some estimate a cumulative contribution of over $22 trillion to global GDP by 2030. A key observation here, I think, is just the sheer scale of the potential impact being forecasted. This isn't just about marginal efficiency gains anymore. It's potentially about a fundamental shift in how economic value is created and distributed. And within specific markets, agentic AI is certainly poised to act as a significant disruptive force. By dramatically reducing communication and transaction frictions between entities, some speculate that interoperable AI agents could fundamentally alter the role and maybe the power of today's dominant digital intermediaries, think platforms like Amazon, Expedia, maybe even app stores. In a potential future agentic economy, your personal assistant agent could, theoretically, directly discover, negotiate with, and transact with a business's service agent, bypassing intermediaries. This could potentially lead to a decentralization of market power, but also create fierce new platform competition around who provides the best agent infrastructure or orchestration. So for leaders who are planning multi-year strategic investments, actively anticipating the trajectory of this technology becomes crucial. Now, precise prediction is obviously impossible, but the report suggests using technology forecasting models as a structured way to assess an emerging technology's likely path to maturity. This involves monitoring key indicators like, where is agentic AI currently on the classic S-curve of adoption? What's the level of public attention, media hype versus real substance, and actual investment trends, VC funding, corporate R&D? Are we seeing the development of essential complementary products and services, the frameworks, the specialized hardware, the data platforms needed to support widespread adoption? And can we track performance improvement and cost reduction trends, maybe applying models analogous to Moore's Law or Wright's Law to AI capabilities? Monitoring these signals helps inform strategic timing, and it really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
As a leader, are you just reacting to the technology as it arrives today? Or are you actively trying to shape your organization to thrive in this potential future agentic economy?
That's a big strategic question. Now, given the high cost, the complexity, and the risks we've discussed, the report strongly advises against attempting some kind of massive, big bang, enterprise-wide rollout of agentic AI all at once. Instead, it advocates for a much more disciplined, phased approach. This seems essential to manage risk effectively, build internal capabilities incrementally, and demonstrate value along the way. So phase one, according to the report, is about identify and pilot high-impact use cases. The journey should really begin by carefully identifying initial use cases that offer a clear line of sight to tangible business value and, importantly, have a reasonably high probability of technical and organizational success. Following Gartner's framework mentioned earlier, organizations might initially focus on defend use cases, maybe using productivity assistance internally for quick efficiency gains, and extend use cases, like embedding agents into existing customer service workflows to measurably improve that process. The goal of this phase is to deliver tangible ROI relatively quickly, build momentum and enthusiasm, and generate crucial credibility for the broader AI program within the organization. Get some runs on the board? Then comes phase two. Iterate, learn, and scale. The insights, the data, the lessons learned, both good and bad, from those initial successful pilots must be used strategically to refine the AI models, the implementation strategy, and the governance approach. This phase is absolutely critical for avoiding what the report ominously calls pilot purgatory, that common scenario where promising experiments generate excitement but then fail to translate into meaningful enterprise-wide impact because the scaling challenges weren't addressed. Scaling successfully requires moving well beyond just tweaking the technical solution. It demands tackling the necessary process redesign, the deep workflow integration challenges, and the comprehensive employee training and change management needed for broad adoption. The report emphasizes that successful scaling is typically an iterative process. You introduce AI capabilities in manageable stages, actively solicit and celebrate user feedback, and continuously adjust the roadmap based on real-world usage data and evolving business needs. And then finally comes phase three, strategic transformation. Once the organization has built significant technical expertise, established robust governance structures, and achieved measurable success with those initial defend and extend projects, then it can confidently move toward more ambitious up-end use cases. This is where you start using agentic AI to fundamentally reimagine core business processes from the ground up, or potentially to create entirely new AI-native products, services, and even business models that weren't possible before. This is the stage where the full transformative potential of agentic AI, and likely the highest long-term ROI, is truly realized. So what's the practical takeaway here? It's really a roadmap for managing this potentially disruptive technology successfully. Start small, prove value, learn iteratively, and then scale strategically, allowing your organization to build the necessary muscles, technical, operational, and cultural, for the significant transformation.
And successfully navigating this entire agentic AI imperative, from pilot to transformation, requires concerted, aligned leadership from the entire C-suite. That comes through very strongly in the report. The ROI ultimately achieved from agentic AI is less a reflection of the technology itself and more a reflection of the organization's collective ability to execute a unified business and technology strategy. So the report offers some specific recommendations tailored to different executive roles. For the Chief Executive Officer, CEO, the primary role is to champion the compelling long-term vision of the autonomous enterprise, to articulate the why. This involves ensuring that the AI strategy isn't treated as some siloed IT function, but is deeply integrated into the core corporate strategy and linked to key business objectives. The CEO's critical role is to secure the necessary long-term investment, sometimes in the face of that J-curve pressure, and to personally lead the significant cultural transformation required for widespread adoption and success. For the Chief Financial Officer, CFO, the imperative is to evolve the organization's approach to investment appraisal and ROI measurement for AI. This means moving beyond those simple, project-based payback calculations toward a more sophisticated portfolio management view. It means embracing methodologies like full total cost of ownership, TCO analysis, risk-adjusted net present value, NPV, integrating the insights from the strategic value scorecard, and strategically using the concept of risk of non-investment, RNI. The CFO also has a crucial role in communicating the realities of the J-curve of AI investment to the board and to the market, defending that initial period of potentially low returns as a necessary foundation for achieving long-term compounding value creation. For the Chief Information Officer, CIO, or Chief Technology Officer, CTO, the technology leader is fundamentally responsible for building the scalable, secure, reliable, and governable technology foundation, what the report intriguingly calls the agentic AI mesh upon which the future autonomous enterprise will run. But crucially, the report stresses, the CIO-CTO must actively break down traditional silos and forge a deep collaborative partnership with business unit leaders. They need to co-own the business outcomes, ensuring the technology development is inextricably linked to tangible value creation, not just delivering features. And finally, for all executive leaders, perhaps the single most critical takeaway message from the research is this. The vast majority of the value derived from agentic AI, again, possibly up to 70%, comes not purely from the cleverness of the technology itself, but from the corresponding, often difficult changes in business processes, employee roles, organizational structures, and fundamental ways of working. Therefore,
Every single leader across the organization must understand, commit to, and invest heavily in the necessary organizational change management, the talent development and reskilling, and the often complex process redesign required to truly unlock this value. So the concluding recommendation is to reframe the central question. It's not simply, what is the ROI of this particular AI project? But rather the more strategic question is, what is the ROI of transforming our company over time into an agentic enterprise? This reframing elevates the initiative from just another discretionary technology spend to a core strategic imperative for future relevance, growth, and potentially even survival in an increasingly AI-driven world. If we really connect this to the bigger picture, it becomes clear it's about leading a fundamental operational and cultural shift, recognizing that the biggest, most sustainable gains ultimately come from enabling the human and organizational side of the equation, not just from deploying the technology itself.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. So, what does this all really mean for you listening to this deep dive today? We've unpacked the profound implications, hopefully, of agentic AI. We've tried to move beyond the buzzwords to get to a more concrete understanding of its potentially deep costs, its multifaceted returns, and the complex strategic journey required for success. We've learned that it's definitely a long game. It's a true transformation, not just an upgrade. And it really requires a new way of thinking about investment, value, and risk. Hopefully, you now feel like you have the framework, the right terminology, and some concrete examples to better navigate this transformative technology. Whether you're involved in building a business case, evaluating a vendor, or simply trying to understand the future of automation and work, our goal was that you are now truly well-informed on this specific topic.
Which brings up one final, maybe provocative thought to leave you with, based on that potential for market disruption we touched upon. If agentic AI genuinely has the potential to decentralize market power, bypass traditional intermediaries, and fundamentally redefine industry structures, what does that really mean for the specific competitive landscape that you operate in today? And perhaps more importantly, how are you and your organization actively preparing for a future where autonomous agents might become your primary interface, not just with individual customers, but with the market as a whole? Food for thought.
Definitely food for thought. We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, drawing from that comprehensive report. And we sincerely hope it sparks some new insights or maybe challenge some existing assumptions for you. As always, we're really interested to hear what stands out to you from this deep dive. What questions does it raise for your business? We love hearing your thoughts. Thanks for joining us.